Good evening and welcome to TiVi Tuần-san News of the Week. My name is Nguyen. In this week's news, Vietnamese nationals seized in the UK during a crackdown on nail salons, Vietnamese abattoirs still abusing Australian cattle, and Lunar New Year fireworks banned in Vietnam. To this week's top story. A number of Vietnamese nationals have been arrested during a crackdown on nail bars in the UK. Nearly 100 people suspected of committing immigration offences were arrested in raids under Operation Magnify. Most of those people arrested were identified as Vietnamese nationals, while the remaining few included people from Mongolia, China and India. In recent weeks, authorities have stepped up enforcement raids, targeting more than 280 nail bars that employ non-EU citizens who do not have permission to be in the country. Officers also issued notices to 68 businesses, warning them they may face fines the equivalent of 34,000 Australian dollars for every illegal worker. Now to news in Vietnam. Police in the southern province of Tây Ninh have arrested 6 men as part of a raid on a dog theft gang last week. The gang members, aged 27 to 55, were reportedly caught transporting dogs for sale on Friday. The officers have alleged 3 of the men roamed the streets and used stun guns to catch dogs, while their accomplices would slaughter and sell the animals for meat, at the equivalent of $3 a kilo. At the time of the arrest, police seized 47 dogs, including 32 slaughtered. They also seized tools including taser guns, portable energy storages, weighing scales, motorbikes, and a device to strip the dogs' hairs. According to the Asia Canine Protection Alliance, an estimated 5 million dogs are killed annually for meat in Vietnam, ranking it second on the list of Asian countries which eat the most dog meat. An appeals court in Hanoi has sentenced 18 former officials of the state-owned Vietnam Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development to prison for abuse of power. The High Court's ruling on Tuesday comes after a trial which lasted more than 10 days. According to state-run news agency VNA, the court sentenced the former Agribank General Director Phạm Thanh Tân to 22 years in prison for abusing power while on duty. The former director of Agribank's Southern Hanoi branch, Phạm Thị Bích Lương, and the same branch's former deputy director, Chữ Thị Kim Hiền, were both sentenced to 30 years in prison over the charges of violating lending rules and abusing power. Several other former officials of Agribank's Southern Hanoi branch also faced imprisonment sentences ranging from 4 to 15 years. Authorities say Vietnam's economic growth has slowed down for the first time in 4 years. Official data showed the communist country's GDP expanded at an estimated 6.2% this year, failing to reach the target of 6.7%. On Wednesday, the director of the General Statistics Office told reporters in Hanoi that the growth was still considered a success given the floods, the Formosa scandal, and unfavourable global economic conditions. In a report earlier this month, the World Bank said Vietnam's economy remains resilient thanks to robust domestic demand and export manufacturing. Vietnam is the world's second largest coffee producer after Brazil and ranks 3rd behind India and Thailand in rice exports. Vietnam is scrapping Lunar New Year fireworks after the government told cities to pledge the money to the city's poor instead. According to the state-run newspaper Tvts News, all provinces and cities have been told not to hold fireworks displays during Tết or Lunar New Year. Hanoi's tourism department has already abandoned its fireworks show worth about $440,000. Tết pyrotechnic shows are usually funded by the state budget or private sector. While the government directive has banned fireworks for the Lunar New Year, it is not clear whether the Western New Year's celebrations will be affected. Vietnam's Lunar New Year holiday runs for a week from January 26. The upcoming Year of the Rooster will start on January 28. Vietnam has had the biggest surge of foreign visitors to date, with numbers growing 20% compared to the previous year. On Christmas Day, the country celebrated its 10 millionth foreign visitor of the year, greeting an unsuspecting British tourist with flowers and a certificate upon his arrival at Phu Quoc Airport. This year, the tourism industry made $17.6 billion, contributing 7.5% to GDP. Vietnam's tourism minister told VN Express that unprecedented growth came from Europe. European tourists from countries including Russia, Sweden, France and the UK can now visit Vietnam for 15 days without a visa. Earlier in the year, Vietnam announced an online visa system for short-term travellers and business people. It will come into effect next February. Now to other news around the world. The number of Vietnamese nationals living in South Korea has surpassed Americans for the second consecutive month. According to South Korea's Immigration Office, people from China still represent the largest share of the foreign population. Vietnamese nationals make up the second largest group, with 147,000 residing in the country, the equivalent to 7.4% of the foreign population. The ministry has attributed the growth of the Vietnamese population to rising number of migrant workers and women married to South Korean men. Vietnam is still breaching animal welfare standards by mistreating live cattle imported from Australia. The agriculture news site Farm Online reported that Vietnamese facilities made up 16 out of 18 non-compliance reports filed by the Australian standards body that oversees export of livestock. In June this year, a video showing Australian cattle being bludgeoned to death in Vietnamese abattoirs led Australia to suspend trade with 3 exporters. The CEO of the Australian Livestock Exporters Council told Farm Online that exports to more than 20 facilities in Vietnam had been suspended for violations. In the last 5 years, Australia's live cattle exports to Vietnam has risen from 1,400 cows to 283,000. A year-long pay dispute between Melbourne's Magistrates Court and Vietnamese language interpreters has finally been resolved. The dispute arose when the Melbourne Magistrates Court changed hiring practices that effectively lowered full-day rates from $280 to $210. About 17 Vietnamese court interpreters stopped accepting bookings from the court for about 8 months following the changes. The Age reports that this left non-English speaking Vietnamese people facing criminal charges in custody for more than a month because there were no interpreters available. Earlier this year, the court began hiring interpreters at the lower rate through an agency. It said that the new system was better compared to the ad hoc way court staff source interpreters previously. During the dispute, one Vietnamese translator representing the group of court interpreters established her own language service agency, which paid the previous rate of $280. The dispute was eventually resolved in late November after the court agreed to book Vietnamese translators at their former pay rate through the newly established agency. Vietnamese circus artists Giang Quốc Cơ and Giang Quốc Nghiệp have smashed a Guinness World Record with their balancing act in Spain, according to media reports. The brothers climbed the steps of the Cathedral of Girona on Thursday, with one sibling balanced on top of the other using only head-to-head contact. The Vietnamese artists managed to break the record by scaling 90 stairs in 52 seconds. The previous record was held by a Chinese duo, who climbed 25 stairs in 1 minute using the same technique in September 2014. According to state media outlets, the Young brothers are among Vietnam's most renowned circus artists, having won international recognition for technically demanding stunts using their arms and hands. That's all from TiVi Tuần-san News of the Week. I'm Van Nguyen. For more stories, you can follow TiVi Tuần-san at tvtsonline.com.au and Facebook at TiVi Tuần-san. On behalf of the team, we wish you a safe and happy New Year. Thank you so much for watching.